Hello and good evening, everybody. It's great to be with you. I'm Dr. Petrick with Prior Lake Spinal Care. We are now on day 8 of Tic Tac A.D.I.O X3. Yesterday we spoke about how trials are inevitable. We cannot avoid all trials in life, so we might as well embrace them. We talked about how since trials are inevitable, we can either be a trial denier and sing the Lego song to ourselves all day long, everything is awesome, but that doesn't need to be refuted because, that's not true. We could be a trial victim, oh, this happened to me, that happened to me, and the people that we share that with, they might not think that you're a victim, so that creates even more friction points. So really there's only one way, there's only one attitude on facing trials, and that is to say to trials, bring it on. Because what happens? We either win and we're victorious and we grow, or we learn and we grow. Computers do that. Computers don't get emotional. You're better than a computer. I'm better than a computer. When I was in second grade, my dad came to my class because he worked on computers. He worked for Unisys company in Roseville back in the day. And he came in, he had this blue smock on with his name and his pens in his pocket. And he called on me. He said, can anybody tell me how high can a computer count up to? And nobody said anything, and we had rehearsed this the day before just in case he called on me. And he says, Jim, how high can a computer count up to? And I said 2. And he looks at me, he's like, as if to say, we just practiced this last night. Were you paying attention? And he said, it's 1. A computer can only count up to 1. And that was the first time, I guess, that I was intrigued by the concept that how 1 plus 1 could somehow equal 3 or 4 or more. And one of the most resourceful things that we can do when it comes to this A.D.I.O concept is like chiropractic, which is one of the most resourceful things that you can do. Think about it. We don't take anything out of you. We don't put anything into you. And all I use is my bare hands with the help of maybe x-rays and some evaluation tools. And we can get incredible results. Not incredible results on everybody, but most people most of the time do very well just by following this logic, this left to right linear logic, which we backed up by saying functional integration is a matter of taking a principle and encountering a dilemma and making the correct choice. So we go all the way across here now, all 3 layers of Tic Tac A.D.I.O X3. On layer number 1 down there at the foundation, we talked about the brain and spinal cord do not change. The brain and spinal cord cells that are in your body right now, you will have the rest of your life unless they die off. You will not regenerate new nerve cells. The body does not work that way, so that's why we have to take care of the ones that we have. The dilemma is the subluxation. The vertebrae go out of place just enough not to cause a dislocation, but just enough to disrupt the electrical transmission of nerve signal. And we correct that problem by adjusting the spine. And the result is something called functional integration. And for our purposes, we'll say intentional integration. Moving up to layer number 2, integration, we said, is the coordination of various mental processes into a normal, effective personality or with the environment. They don't tell us what it requires to be integrated or to be normal. So based on my research, I have concluded that it is one's ability to reason, intuit, perceive, maintain their willpower, imagine, as well as call on their memory, all in real time, all in the zone, in their element. We can do this through music. The Piano Man might be a good example. They're playing from principle and practice, yet also kind of winging it at the same time. But you don't have to learn a new instrument. You could diagram according to our chart of functional integration, and it's down here at an angle, that USB icon. You could diagram, you could connect your dots through journaling. You don't have to journal, but journaling is the easiest way to teach all of these concepts. It's the best way to go back and glean a harvest from your past experience, because again, we want our spine to trend upward and to the right. We want everything in our life to trend upward and to the right until our very last breath. You live your life through your spine and your nerve system. So before you started coming here, you were on a downward trend. So we want to go back and reap the harvest of those bountiful fields that is our past experience. And we do that by time travel, just by thinking about past events, taking stock of our emotions. A lot of times first thing in the morning is the most efficient thing to do. If you're at all like me, I'm usually in a bad mood first thing in the morning. Take an inventory of what that emotion is, what is the opposite emotion, and that forces you to think and to remember. And you just realize that, hey, if I'm supposed to trend upward and to the right in all areas of my life until my very last breath, then I have no choice. If I'm going to be congruent, I have no choice but to look at those past speed bumps and roadblocks and see them actually as part of my trajectory. So the unresolved trials, there's a lot of good stuff there, guys. Now I want to go back in time and show you this picture. That's actually me in front of the Chiropractic College in Bloomington on 84th and Penn Avenue a couple of weeks ago. But I took that picture because right about where the camera is, on the other side of the road, I got arrested, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. I was handcuffed, put in the back of a squad car, and brought to Hennepin County Jail in Minneapolis. Are you ready for this? Because of expired tabs on my car. All right, quick background story so no one thinks that I'm a felon. And I've never found my mugshot or anything on the internet, so you can try it, but you're not going to find anything. I had a California license plate car, and when you're a full-time student, you don't have to get new license plates. The problem is I was due for an emission or a smog test, but the California standards are super high, and I couldn't get the paperwork. I had a lot of problems dealing. I mean, it's still a problem to this day dealing with the state of California. But I don't even think that back in those days you could print off the PDFs on the government websites and stuff. I don't remember. But I paid for the tabs. I actually had the receipt in the glove box at the time I got pulled over, but my tail light was out, and apparently, this police officer maybe had a quota to meet. Next thing you know, I'm getting booked. I'm getting handcuffed. It was a terrible experience all day long. It was terrible. But the thing that I take away from that is when I was eating this stale white bread, I don't even know if it had butter or cheese on it, bologna sandwich with nasty water, I remember just feeling a sense of just despair. I was missing 2 tests. It was embarrassing. It's a terrible day. The car got impounded. I had to post bail later on that night after I got transported up to Anoka County because I was too embarrassed to have any of my chiropractic college friends bail me out. But I did still have some friends from high school up in that area. So posted bond right about midnight for $100 to get me out of jail. But I remember eating that sandwich and looking down at my jail slippers, orange shirt, orange pants, orange slippers, and just thinking, there's nothing I can do to get myself out of this situation. I might as well just try to be a good jailbird for the day. There's nothing I could do, yet there's nothing I had to do. And that's one of the most freeing feelings that you can have. It was a weird combination of almost liberty and humility at the same time. And yesterday I talked about how what I believe are the wisest words ever written, the first paragraph, the book of James in the Bible, the last verses 7 and 8 say, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who generously gives to all without finding fault. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. He or she is a double-minded man, unstable in all their ways. So if there was a such thing as infinite wisdom, congratulations if you chose X, because the X is one, the Tic Tac A.D.I.O. All along the right-hand side there, of course, impact is what we're going for with Tic Tac A.D.I.O. X3, the one-of-a-kind science, art, and philosophy of A.D.I.O., above, down, inside, out, completely patterned off of the chiropractic adjustment. We realized the design pattern. We understand the algebra of the unchanging principle, moving from left to right, plus facing the dilemma and making the correct choice, and the result equaling integration. This is scientifically exactly what that looks like. This goes on for infinity. And up here again in the upper right, if there was such a thing, would be infinite wisdom. Now, human beings are prone to pride, and the wiser we get, sometimes we have a way of thinking, look at me, I know it all. I'm a know-it-all. I don't have anything else to learn. But the reality is, the more we learn, we should realize the healthy response is to know that we have more to learn. It's not I think, therefore I am. It's I think, therefore I am not. So it's a bit of a paradox. You know, this isn't a ladder towards transcendence, right? This is just a visual aid to help us understand and navigate and see cause and effect in real time. Yes, we can overanalyze. Yes, we can over-spiritualize. But the wisest thing to do with our body is to understand that the mind governs the body. And if you don't believe that, then just sit there and stare at a wall for 5 minutes and see if you can not scratch the itch. And if you can survive that, then you'll realize too that the mind is indeed sovereign over the body. And the most efficient way of dealing with issues in the mental, emotional, and social layer, number 2, is oftentimes to deal with it spiritually. You know, and if a person's off spiritually, it can goof up all the other layers. You know, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when I was young enough to sit right next to my dad, I asked him, I said, what's heaven and hell like? What's that all about? How do I know where I'm going? He said, look up at the ceiling. Every time you do something bad, the ceiling gets a little darker. And if you run out of white spots, then that's it. And so that gradually launched me into this, what many would call OCD phase, where I was checking the locks at night, checking to make sure the dog was breathing, constantly checking over my sports equipment before games, especially weekend tournaments, constantly checking over my homework. My name's on it, it's in my folder. My name's on it, it's in my folder, it's in my bag. Oh, I'm going to be late for the bus. I got to check one more time. My name's on it. Mom and Dad, is it going to be all right? Is it going to be all right? Is it going to be all right? Asking multiple times per day. Goofed up with bad spiritual advice, goofed me up in the head in layer number 2, threw my emotions out of whack, probably affected my social relationships. And I was having physical symptoms. I had to see a doctor because of stomach aches. And I believe it was very much tied exactly to what my dad had told me that one day. He never told me anything about God's grace or mercy. And, I don't hold anything against him. But again, this is one of those things that you make meaning. Everything happens for a reason. And maybe that happened for me to just tell that to you right now. The question is, on the far right-hand side, is the result impact? Is the result impact for you? And that's a choice that you need to make. Thank you for being with me this evening on Tic Tac A.D.I.O X3. Tomorrow is going to be day 9. We're just going to tie up any loose ends that I may have forgotten to cover with you, and we're going to put a final stamp, a final exclamation point on this unique, one-of-a-kind information that I like to call above, down, inside out X3. Have a good evening, everybody.